Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the MLB Full Count Sports Betting Show presented to you by SportsMemo. My name is Eric Pauly, and as always on the Full Count Show, today we will be breaking down three of the marquee games on the MLB slate tonight with two of not only the most prolific handicappers on SportsMemo, but simply put, in the entire industry. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my two panelists for today. We have Dan Kaiser and Jeff Michaels of SportsMemo. Jeff, Dan, how are you? Happy Friday. How are you guys feeling today?
I'm doing good. Hey, it's Spartan football tonight, so it's always good.
How are you, Jeff? I know you're getting a little bit of an illness.
Yeah, no, I'm much better now, and I'm looking forward to it. My dad's actually making his way into town. We're excited for the game tomorrow night, watching that Buckeyes Notre Dame game. But hey, we're here to talk baseball, right? But can't help but be a little excited.
Oh, you can't hide the excitement at this point. It's college football. Last night was great. We're gonna stick to baseball tonight because we still got that month left of the regular season before the playoffs. But football season is here, which is always exciting. But without further ado, we're going to get into the first round table game of the day. We're talking about the Seattle Mariners are headed to Cleveland to face the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians are clinging to a 1-game lead in the AL Central. Seattle's got that 2-game lead in the wild card spot. They have Luis Castillo, their trade deadline acquisition, going for them. He is 3-2 in his 5 starts since the trade. He's a 2.85 ERA, a 107 WHIP, and a 3.11 FIP on the season. On the Guardians' end, they have Zach Plesac pitching. He's 3-11 on the year, 4.39 ERA, 4.50 FIP, and a 1.31 WHIP. The Mariners lead this season series 3-1, and this is the first game of a 3-game set. The Mariners are minus 140-ish road favorites. They're about plus 127 on the run line. Cleveland's plus 30 on the money line, and they're minus 133 on the run line. Total set 7.5 runs. So we're going to go with Jeff to start us off first. Jeff, you got your hometown Guardians on the show tonight. Talk to me. Are you betting on them, betting against them? Where do you find value tonight?
You know, it's, in my opinion, it's kind of hard to argue which team in this series needs this game more. I mean, Seattle's right there with Tampa atop the wild card standings, like you mentioned, and Cleveland may hold the lead in their division, but it's just one game, and right now they'd be on the outside of the wild card looking in if they weren't leading the division. So, you know, like you said, Castillo has actually posted a little bit of a better ERA since he's come to Seattle, a 2.79, just a couple points lower than where he's at on the season. But we've said it before. I think actually it was you, me, and Dr. Chuck that had the conversation recently about, you know, taking into account starts against opposing teams. And I am going to a little bit today because Castillo has faced Cleveland 5 times in the last 4 years. And he's 0-3 with a 6.29 ERA. The team is 0-5, and 4 out of those 5 starts, dogs upstairs. 4 out of those 5 starts have come in Cleveland, and his ERA is almost 8 in those games. You know, both teams have an identical 25-16 record to open a series. Seattle's 8 games over 500 on the road at 38-30, and Cleveland's 6 games over 500 at home at 33-27. So Cleveland's been actually hitting better this season, but Seattle's been putting up more runs. Seattle's won 7 of the last 10 going back to over their last 10 games, but the total's 2-5-1 over under in the last 8. So I think I'm actually looking at the total in this one staying under with these 2 impressive bullpens. If you had to kill me on a side, I probably would be sticking with my hometown team, but a little more confident in that total staying under tonight.
Yeah, I think there's some great points you made looking at the total. I mean, the Guardians have been playing well as of late, but a lot of their games have been going under. The Mariners are one of the best records in baseball over the past 2 months, if not the best record. So it's tough to really, pick a side in this matchup, given that these are 2 very hot teams and a really great matchup. So looking at the total is definitely something I would look at as well. Dan, so given what Jeff was just talking about, the Guardians and the total, are you seeing things similarly or differently in this matchup?
Well, yeah, I do like a side in this, and it is a premium play up at SportsMemo. It is, in fact, the only baseball play I have up for today. But I agree with Jeff on the under, to be honest. Yeah, Seattle took three of the last 4 the last time they played, but Seattle didn't score more than 4 runs in any of those games. Again, when Plesac pitched against him, he allowed 3 runs on 3 hits in 7 innings. Seattle's one of those teams. They just don't score a lot of runs, but they win because they keep the other team from scoring. Cleveland, they've been known as a singles team. They manufacture runs. They put a lot of hits together to score. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that against Castillo, despite what Jeff says about his bad pitching against the Indians. But he has been pitching really well since coming over to the Mariners. So I'm with Jeff. I like the under in this one.
Gotcha. Seems we have an agreement, all 3 of us, on the under, which is, I don't know if it's going to be a great sign or a bad sign. The 7.5 total is very low, but given these 2 DNAs of these teams, it makes sense. Make sure also to check out Dan Kaiser's premium play on this matchup. He clearly just gave some great insight there, so I can only imagine what the details he has going for his clients on that pick tonight. Yeah. I guess we will all be waiting in suspense on that one.
Eric, I will say one thing to Dan's point. The one hesitation I had on Castillo's stats is the fact that all 5 of those starts came with the Cincinnati Reds. So that was kind of the preface to the point that Eric and I had talked about on a previous show, that you can only put so many eggs in one basket when you have a noticeably better offense with Seattle backing you now. So.
Absolutely great to mention, because again, if you're playing a team over the course of time, it sometimes can help in the handicapping, but other times it's something that could be completely ignored depending on scenario. So the fact that he's, of course, with a completely new ball club and actually a winning ball club compared to what he was dealing with in Cincinnati. So definitely interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to that matchup. It's one of those underrated, very good matchups of the slate that could potentially be a playoff series. So we are going to stick with the American League Central for our next roundtable game. We have the Minnesota Twins headed to the south side of Chicago to take on the White Sox. The Twins are currently 3 games back in the wild card, but are only a game back of the Guardians in that AL Central. The White Sox are 6 games back in the wild card and have some work to do to make up some ground in either the wild card or the AL Central division. We have Sonny Gray going for the Minnesota Twins. He used to be an auto fade of mine, but he's actually kind of came around this year. He's 7-4 on the season with a 3.04 ERA, a 1.11 WHIP, and a 3.42 FIP. He pitched against the White Sox in July and actually did not have a great start. Had one of his worst starts of the year. I was actually on the White Sox in that game. I remember it. He allowed 6 runs on 9 hits and was bounced before the end of the 4th inning. Davis Martin on the hill for the White Sox, just his 6th start this year. He's 2-4, has a 4.62 ERA, a 1.31 WHIP, and a 4.51 FIP. The Twins have a slight season series lead, 6-4, and they are minus 133 road favorites, plus 130 on the run line. The White Sox are plus 123 on the money line, minus 141 on the run line. The total sitting at 8, but I did see some 8.5s out there. So if you are an under better, definitely look to find an 8.5 if you can. If you like the over, look for the 8. We're going to start with Dan this time. Dan, we have another AL Central showdown. 2 fringe teams that have showed some potential, except for the White Sox, who are one of the most under or one of the most disappointing teams in the league this year. So, Dan, how are you viewing this matchup? Are you finding value anywhere in this game?
Yeah, being a fan of the White Sox this season, I don't know. It feels like I've been in an abusive relationship. They get close and then they get swept by Arizona. They lose 10 out of 12, and I feel like I'm finally free. It's over. Yeah, thank God. And then they win a couple more. You look at them; they're only four games back of Cleveland. And I guess one positive point, TLR is out of the picture. I think it's 2 months too late for my liking, but and who knows with this White Sox team. Tony La Russa is why he's gone is more changes every day, just like Trump and his reasons why he has confidential documents in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what to say. It's his heart. So they're going to send him to Arizona to the Mayo Clinic. Last I knew, that was in Minnesota. I know they have good rehab centers down there, but and now it's supposedly cancer. But let's get to the game. You say Martin's going. Yeah, it's a bullpen game for the Sox, basically. And coming in this season, that was their strength due to many injuries and ineffectiveness. It's a liability. There's a lot of stats out there that say the Twins are bad against the White Sox in Chicago. But it is the White Sox, and it is this season. my heart or my mind says the Twins. My heart just can't take the roller coaster anymore. I'm taking the Twins on the money line.
Twins on that money line, -133. But quick question for you, Dan. So being an avid White Sox follower, obviously they hit with not only a myriad of injuries this year, but a lot of Tony La Russa's managerial style being a lot more old school has been under scrutiny by analysts, the media, and handicappers as well. How much do you attribute their lack of success to his inability to conform to like more modern baseball style, or do you think it's more so that team has struggled because of the injuries and because maybe they weren't as talented at the top level as everyone thought they were coming into the season?
I think a little bit has to do with injuries, of course, but again, it's just that they don't play good, sound baseball. Whether it be old school, new school, they just play bad defense. They got a lot of guys playing out of position for whatever reason, and they've had this mandate for at least 2/3 of the season. If it looks like a routine ground ball, don't run hard to first base. We can't afford to get you injured. There's a lot of games that they've given up what should be doubles to turn into singles because they don't hustle. They've given up outs because they don't hustle. That goes back to the manager. That goes back to the coaching staff. I think it's a combination of both. But it was a bad mistake bringing in Tony La Russa 2 years ago, that was my argument back then. It hasn't changed. Hopefully, with them gone, they can make a little run here and make the playoffs. I'm not sure that saves the season, but hey, there's still hope.
There's still hope as we have a month and a couple of days left in the season. Absolutely love that because it provides another perspective for people looking to bet games. Obviously, the players on the field and the coaching staffs are things to consider, but actually taking a look at some of those micro aspects like whether or not the team hustles and how they go about certain things on the field are all things that if you are a more qualitative handicapper and if you can pick up on, you can certainly use that to find an edge. And given a game of this magnitude, both of these teams need this win desperately. That's a very good thing to keep in consideration anytime looking at any game. So absolutely love that, Dan. Jeff, are you agreeing with Dan's take on the Twins taking this win on the money line as a road favorite, or how are you viewing this game?
Yeah, I am. And I think to the point of that, if I recall correctly, obviously I may be a little bit biased watching opening day, but I believe the White Sox were taking on the Guardians. And if I'm not mistaken, Tim Anderson had like 3 errors before the second inning. So you knew that things weren't looking very good when they put up more errors than hits in their first 7 innings through the season. But, there is something to be said about the fact that these 3 teams, Guardians included, are fighting for a playoff spot, but their real only hope at the playoffs right now is winning this division with how good the AL East is at the moment. Minnesota's just a game back of Cleveland, and Chicago's 4 games back. But Minnesota holds a big advantage in the first game of the series. They're 22-19, but they're 13-6 coming off a loss, while Chicago is 14-28 on the year to open a series, and they're just 7-15 when they're coming in off a win. The White Sox have hit a relatively impressive 254 as a team, but they're putting up just 4.2 runs. And they've hit left-handed pitchers noticeably better again this year than they have against righties. And they have Sonny Gray on the mound against them today, which is a right-handed powerhouse, or was at one point. Minnesota's hitting 249 against righties, but they're putting up 4.6 runs per game thanks to their home run power. But, the biggest thing that caught my attention was Minnesota has revenge in mind. And they're 21-7 in the last 2 years, revenging a loss where their opponent scored 10 or more runs. So, I think Minnesota has revenge on the mind, and I do agree. I like them here on the money line tonight.
All right, you heard it here from Jeff Michaels, Twins as well on the money line. Jeff, I do have a question for you. So, looking again at this matchup, of course, there is so much prominence on this series because of how close these teams are in proximity, not only in the wild card, but in that AL Central hunt. These teams play 3 games over the course of the next couple of days, and then they finish the series. Actually, then they have another series. Then they finish off the season playing each other. How do you think one of these teams are more motivated to make the playoffs? You think the White Sox are more kind of down on themselves because they had such a bad season and they had such high expectations coming in? Or do you think they're happy that they're still around? And conversely, the Twins, they weren't expected to really be in the hunt this year after some couple of good seasons, but they're still looking at a playoff spot. Do you think the White Sox might be a little bit like feeling like they're down their luck where the Twins are optimistic about their perspective? Or do you think at this point, still with a month and a week to go, that it's just coming down to the numbers here and betting this game?
I don't know. I think it's a two-head sword kind of thing, because you look at it and on one hand, you're playing a team that well multiple times to end the season, and you really have your fate in your own hands. I mean, I was amazed that these two teams that are division rivals, obviously, have only played 3 games in Chicago this season at all. So, I did come to that realization today that they have a lot of baseball to be played against each other. So, Minnesota has a better division record as a whole, but like you guys mentioned, when they play head to head, I believe it's only a 6-4 edge this year. So they're pretty closely matched up against each other. So I think if you're Chicago, if the team thinks what we all think about Tony La Russa being out and that being a positive, then it could be a real opportunity for them to actually capitalize on a playoff position. But that does, still put the Guardians at risk to run their own fate. If not, these two teams are basically playing 12 or 15 games against each other to decide who's going to make the playoffs out of the AL Central.
I think that is a fantastic point. The White Sox at home this season are actually worse than they are on the road. They're 32-35 at home this year. Of course, they kick off that 3-game series with the Twins tonight. Then they have another series, 3 games in Minnesota, and then they end the season. The Twins headed back to Chicago, and that could definitely be make or break. Or at that point, if the Guardians get hot, it could be just basically exhibition games because the playoff field may be set. But we will have to take a closer look as we get closer to that date. Very exciting, but we have another agreement. Both sides, Dan and Jeff, taking the Twins money line on the road. And that brings us to our third and final game, but do not worry, we have our best bets coming up after, as well as some mentions on what we have going on the premium side, SportsMemo. But we are looking at a NL West showdown. The San Diego Padres are headed to Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers. Los Angeles Dodgers are the only 90-win team in baseball. They're looking like a lock too. It's just a matter of when, not if, they will lock in that NL West crown. The Padres are in the thick of the wild card hunt, and they, of course, made those big splash trades at the deadline to bolster their team, but it has not paid full dividends just yet. But Darvish is going for the Padres. He's 11-7 on the year with a 3.41 ERA, a .99 WHIP, and a 3.33 FIP. Dustin May will make the start for the Dodgers, the young pitcher who is making his 3rd start since his IL stint. He showed a lot of promise last year before getting hurt. On the year, he's 1-1, 1.64 ERA, .82 WHIP, and 1.85 FIP. Looking at this matchup, I mean, the Padres made those moves that they did in order to compete with the Dodgers in the NL West, and so far it's not showing at all. I know we do not have a full season of Juan Soto in that uniform, but the Dodgers lead this season series 8-2, absolutely dominating their opponent in the NL West there. So, of course, the Padres are plus 145 dogs. They're minus 145 on the run line. The Dodgers are minus 154 home favorites, plus 130 at the run line. The total is sitting at 8. We're going to go back to you to start us off, Jeff. Where are you looking at this game? Do you see any value in maybe a bounce back for the Padres against the Dodgers, or do you think the Dodgers kind of continue their dominance in this season series?
Yeah, the Dodgers are looking to be the first team in the league to secure 100 wins this season, and they're 6 wins ahead of any other team in the MLB, and who guessed that the Yankees would still be shy of 80 wins. But the Padres, are still having a halfway decent season playing behind them. They're 73-59 on the year, but they hold the last place wild card slot right now. But if you want to increase any lead or gain any ground, coming to Dodger Stadium probably isn't the place you want to do it, because they're 45-16 at home this season. On top of that, the Dodgers are 10-2 coming into a series off a loss. And the Padres have a losing record opening a series off a win just 10-11. But like you said, Dustin May's posted a 1.64 ERA. Granted, it's been just 2 starts, but as you mentioned, he did have a promising year last year. And Darvish is just 13-11, barely over that 500 mark in his outings, who was once, the Cy Young caliber pitcher. Dodgers have been one of the best teams hitting right-handed pitchers. As a team, they're hitting nearly 260, and they're putting up 5.5 runs per game. The Padres are hitting just 233 against righties and putting up 4.5 games, which, again, isn't bad unless you're putting these stats up against the Dodgers this year. Dodgers hold the bullpen advantage even after some of those trade deadline acquisitions. And the Dodgers have won 7 out of the last 8. I think the Dodgers take this one, but Padres really need to keep their eye on the prize. This one really could shrink their lead against or ahead of Milwaukee for that last spot in the wild card. They don't want to be on the outside looking in.
Definitely do not. To make all those moves the Padres did and miss the playoffs this year. Of course, Tatis is not going to play at all this year, but that is still would be no other way to put it, an absolute disappointment. I mean, this is also a Padres team that at one point in the beginning of the season got off to the best start in franchise history, yet it wasn't even spoken about because still they're in the division with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and that was when the Brewers were on fire. The Mets, of course, were making their waves. But no, great point that it is a great pitching matchup. The Padres are coming off the 3-game winning streak. Dodgers lost the series against the Mets, but had that day now are ready to get back to it tonight. Very interesting to see who ends up winning this one. So, Dan, are you in agreement with the way that Jeff is seeing this ball game, or do you think that maybe the Padres have a little bit of juice in them with them today?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning. I'm leaning Jeff's way in this one. Both teams are playing really good baseball right now. They're 7-3 in their last 10. As you said, the Padres are coming off a sweep of the Giants. They scored 15 runs in those 3 games. So that they're getting the bats going. As like you said, they kind of struggle after the trade, but the things seem to be turning around a little bit for them there. The one thing that concerns me is the Dodgers bats. Sometimes, they can go silent. But my biggest thing in this game, is Darvish. Darvish has just been terrible on the road this season. 5-5 with a 4.44 ERA. And he's facing this Dodgers team that scored the most runs a game, that had the highest overall team batting average. And what may be the bigger story is if May can come and pitch well in this game. They lost Buehler to Tommy John surgery. Their pitching staff seems to be getting a little banged up here, closing out the season. And they don't look as formidable as, yes, they're a 90-win team, they're going to win 100, but they're just getting a little chinks in the armor with the starting pitching staff. So if May can step up in this one, which I think he will do, it just makes him even stronger going into the playoffs. So yeah, as much as I think the Padres have a chance, it's just a chance, and I'm not going to bet on that. So I'm taking the Dodgers in this one.
You heard that. Dan is on the Dodgers. It is the Dodgers coming off their first series loss since the end of July, which of course came against the Mets last series. That's going to be an exciting matchup when they do face off in the playoffs if the Mets can hold on to that NL East. But you heard it from Dan. He is back in the Dodgers, and I don't blame him. Very important when handicapping to look at home and road splits for pitchers. Sometimes you'll find some very interesting stats because you might see a pitcher with a great ERA. Then when you peel back the onion a little bit, you might see that a lot of that came from some of home starts or road starts, and that when they're pitching either at or away from their home stadium, they might not be the same guy. So we have made it to the final portion of the show, which we know everybody has been waiting for. It is our best bet segment. We will be breaking down our favorite bets on the MLB slate tonight. We're going to go back to you, Dan, to start us off. But before you get into your best bet, please let everybody in the audience know, first of all, what you've been doing in terms of handicapping over the last couple of days, what you have on the premium side for tonight or this weekend, and, of course, your best bet of the day.
All right, sure. Yeah, started out very strong. Week 0 college football, 3-0. Thank you, Scott Frost, for being Scott Frost. I've got a 10% play up tonight on the Indiana-Illinois game. I got a 5% play up on Saturday, a couple other plays up for college football. Baseball, I'm kind of dialing it back a little bit right now, just trying to pick and choose as the season's winding down. You're having, if it's a good team, bad team, the money lines are just sort of outrageous. So I'm just trying to pick the spots in baseball, but really heavy in college football. And next week will be NFL. My best bet, well, I've had 3 big disappointments this season. the White Sox, as I've obviously, if you've listened to my earlier statement, you know how I feel on that. Second was Dallas Keuchel getting released by the White Sox, and the third was Dallas Keuchel getting released by Arizona. But thank God for the Texas Rangers. They decided they saw something on Keuchel, and they're giving him the start tonight. He's 2-8 this season with an ERA of 8.84 and 13 starts. He has just 38 strikeouts and 28 walks in 56 innings. Keuchel came over from Arizona last month. He's made one start in his first start for the Rangers. He gave up 7 runs on 11 hits in 5 1/3 innings, an 11-2 loss to the Tigers. You know, being from Michigan, I know how bad the Tigers are, so that's not a good look for Keuchel in that one. He's 1-1 with a 9-point ERA, 9 strikeouts, and 2 appearances against Boston this season. In his career, he's 2-2 with an ERA of 8.27. As much as Boston has struggled this season after a hot start and their bats sometimes don't show up, it is Dallas Keuchel. He's proven that he can be hit. So this is definitely a play against Keuchel, and I like the Red Sox in this one, even though it is a high run line or high money line here at -190. Sometimes you got to lay the money to make the money, and I think the Red Sox are going to win this one easily.
You heard it from Dan Kaiser. He is backing the Boston Red Sox. Sounds more so like he is fading Dallas Keuchel above all, but definitely love that insight. Make sure to check out what Dan has going on the premium side for some football action, as I know we all are beyond excited for. Jeff, please let us know what you have going on for not only your best bet going on for the premium side, as well as how you kind of been running this past week.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Eric. I do want to give a shout out to Justin over there in the comments. I think he was watching our morning show too on Family Affairs, so he's taking advantage of all those free picks. But I got a big 2-pack up for MLB action tonight too. I have been looking at a lot of the college football stuff. All of that stuff is going up tonight, but I do have a 5% and a 4% baseball play up in a 2-for-1 package on the diamond this evening, and my $2 Tuesday 5% week 1 college football play is actually still up and available, and that doesn't go until tomorrow. And then make sure you check back tomorrow morning or later this evening to get the rest of my college football action for the weekend. But as far as today's best bet goes, I'm going with Tampa Bay with Jeffrey Springs on the mound against New York. I mean, as the season has progressed, we've come to see that the Yankees are really a story of 2 different Yankees teams. I mean, on one side, they're 45-20 at home and putting up over 5 runs a game against right-handed pitchers. And then on the other side, which is the side you're going to see tonight, they're hitting just .218 as a team versus lefties, and they're barely over 500 at 34-32 on the road this year. Tampa Bay has been similar, but they get the advantage in this game since they're 45-23 at home this year. And they have lefty Jeffrey Springs on the mound, who's gotten the Rays the win in 2/3 of his start this year behind a 3.08 ERA. And Tampa's 5-2 in his 7 home starts this season, where he's posted an ERA of just 2.50. Tampa's 32-11 after a 1-run win in the last 2 years. And they're 5-2 in the last 7 games, putting up over 6 runs a game, which is enough to surpass what the Yankees have been able to do against lefties tonight. So I like this -130 money line, and I like the Rays tonight to take down the Yankees again.
You heard it from Jeff Michaels. He is taking the Rays to beat the Yankees tonight. I mean, of course, the Yankees have been miserable over the last couple of weeks and actually months at this point. It's been a rough go for the New York Yankees. So follow Jeff to the bank and back the Tampa Bay Rays tonight. And that leaves you with just me. And I'm going to go into not only what I have going on the premium side and also my best bet. Coming off a huge win last night, it was very ugly. It was almost, it was gut-wrenching. I was on the Rangers as a 10% play last night, +1.5, and they had an 8-3 lead headed into the bottom of the 8th inning. The Red Sox ended up tying the game with the opportunity to hit a home run that could have mushed that run line. That, again, I was up 8-3 going to the 8th inning. I thought it would have been a lock. Thankfully, the Red Sox won just by 1, so that bet cashed. That was a 10%, so a huge play to start the month of September with a great bankroll. Also on the premium side, I have my first NFL pick up for next Thursday's game. Rams Bills. I found a player prop that I absolutely love, and I snatched up immediately before I lost any value on some line movements there. That's up on SportsMemo. But for my best bet of the day, I'm going with back to where almost scared me last night, and I'm going to be going against Dan on this one. I'm taking the Texas Rangers on the run line. I got that at about minus 118. I understand the skepticism of Dallas Keuchel and why you'd want to put him on the auto fade list. I mean, it's his third team of the season, and I'm actually, like Dan was, surprised he even got another opportunity. But this is more so just as Dan is fading the fading Keuchel, this is more so a fade of Pivetta and a backing of the Texas Rangers offense and their just ability to cover the red line on the season. So with Nick Pivetta going for the Red Sox in the 26 starts this year, he's 4.40 ERA, a 4.15 FIP, and he's coming off a rough start where he allowed 5 runs on 8 hits. It was bounced in a Red Sox loss in the fifth, right after the 5th inning. And Boston is 1-4 straight up and 1-4 covering the run line in Pivetta's last 5 home starts. And when he's pitching at home this year, his ERA jumps up to a 4.83. He's got a 4.52 slugging percentage against, a 270 batting average against, and his FIP jumps back up to a 4.50. Also leaves fewer men on base. His strikeout percentage dips, and his walk percentage rises when he is pitching at Fenway. Keuchel, again, not really to go into him because I think this is going to be a game that is similar to last night with an 8-9, 9-8 score. I don't know who's going to have the 9 runs and win, but I do think that the Rangers, given their ability to cover the run line as a dog, they're 55-26 on the season doing that. I think this is a good spot for the Rangers to cover that run line. So again, my best bets, Texas Rangers. We're going to run through them one more time. Dan, best bet?
Now after what you just said, no, I got the Red Sox minus 190. I'll take a 1-run victory, and we both could be happy.
Yes, sir. And you, Jeff? We are on mute, Jeff.
My bad. As long as it's not the same way as last night, because that just makes it too nerve-wracking, right? But I'm staying away from that game. I got Tampa Bay on the money line tonight.
There you have it. Tampa Bay for Jeff. Red Sox money line for Dan. I'm on the Rangers plus 1.5. Thank you to everybody for watching. Hopefully you had a great time as we did as well. Have a fantastic weekend, and we're looking forward to getting back to it next week. See you, everybody.
See ya.